Hello, I'm back. It's actually the same day. It's just a few minutes. I just went to go make myself a cup of coffee. And this whole video making thing, it's on my mind, and I'm talking to myself while I'm making coffee. So I'm rather going to make the second video about the galaxy ship, the Sultan. It's a 12-part series, and I have a very simple plan. You know, the plan goes like this. This is how I'm going to make the TV series. It's two steps. Step one, make a lot of money. And then step two, make the TV series. And I actually have the people to do this. You know, I have a cousin. I've got a big family, by the way. I've got, in Cape Town, we move with families. Families come first. So every person has got his family, and my father's had like 4 or 5 brothers and sisters, and my mother the same. They all had children, like 2, 3, 4, 5 children. They all married, and we had to. I'm a grandfather. I've got one granddaughter with, God willing, some more on the way. We've got a daughter-in-law from heaven. Honestly, I mean, if I look at the stuff that my family and friends complain about, she's just different. Even my wife says, she doesn't have any problems with her. She's such a pleasure, such a nice child. When they got married, and I said that I'm not losing a son, I'm gaining a daughter because I got 2 boys, never had a daughter. I really meant it. I mean, she's really like a daughter that I never had. If I had to have a daughter, then I wish it would have been like her. And I've got her as a daughter. And she's given me a granddaughter. It's the best ever. You have something to look forward to when you get to the grandparent stage, But just take the high road. Don't take the low road. Don't retire and sit and watch YouTube the whole day. Like when you finish watching this YouTube video, you do something. You must be involved in something. Otherwise, you're gonna die or get a heart attack or a stroke. I'm I'm going to funerals here like it's going out of fashion. I wish it would go out of fashion because you know, funeral is not a nice thing to go to. Or you go to my friend that I walk with on a Sunday morning. We started walking because he had a triple bypass. He retired and did nothing. Then he had to go for a triple bypass. His arteries were so mushy they couldn't put stents in it. And then we started walking because he wanted to just sit and watch YouTube videos. He goes to the gym, but I mean, he started gymming 5 years ago. And he's exactly the same age as me, turning 65 this year. So, we can't start jumping when you're 60. And now he had a stroke last week, a very mild stroke. And, it's amazing what medicine can do. Well, not medicine, but the surgeons and stuff. They like vacuum the blood droplets out of his brain or something. And he's 100% normal again. They closed up the little hole. It was an aneurysm, not a blockage. My senior lecturer died of a blockage, a blood clot behind his eye that broke loose and lodged in his lung, and then he died of it long ago. He was fairly young, he was about early 40s. Yeah, so everyone can, I can fall dead right now while making this video. I mean, the chances are, like statistically, I stand a bigger chance of dying than my son, and he stands a bigger chance of dying than his daughter. I mean, the younger you are, that's normally how things happen. Grandparents die first, and then parents become grandparents, and then they die. Like a conveyor belt, and it rotates. All the matter that our body's made of goes into the earth, and it gets turned into all its, like fertilizer. And then, like they say, we push up daisies from underground. And, if you look at it from a physics point of view, then the Hindus say that we get reincarnated. So, and in a sense, they're right, because your some of your chemicals of your body, the compounds get used to make a cockroach. So you can come back, part of you can come back as a cockroach. But we Muslims differ from them, and I suppose that Christians also differ from them in the sense that we are not our bodies. We are our souls, is what we are. Your consciousness is in your soul. And it's yet to be shown where your consciousness is. Is it, where's your soul? Is it in your heart? Why do you feel with your heart? Why do people, in Islam, there's a lot of mention of the word qalb. And Sufis are people of the heart. Imam Al Ghazali, like I said in the previous episode, he showed that there was no dichotomy between religion and philosophy, all the philosophies of all the subjects. Ibn Khaldun again said that the categorization of subjects is problematic, and I'm finding the same thing. We categorize things to such an extent that we become an engineer. An engineer is the answer to everything. We become a doctor, and medicine is, I'm God, I have your life in my control. But then they don't know everything. An engineer thinks he knows everything about computer science. I mean, they talk about prompt engineering. It's not engineering, not by a long shot. It's computer science. In fact, I have a paper that says that AI is the sixth generation of programming languages. It's a 6GL. And if you're a computer scientist, you'll know exactly what I mean. The first generation language was machine code, where computers were programmed with ones and zeros. And then that was too machine like and too difficult. So they came out with assembly code, which was mnemonics, like add A, comma B. And so AI is the sixth generation where it's very, very English like. You can make mistakes and it still understands what you're trying to say in context. But if you don't create a context, you don't type a context, then you're not programming it properly. And it will give you an answer out of context, like totally not what you asked for, because that's what the computer program is like. If you don't program the computer properly, it will just do exactly what you said, you know. And if you're a programmer, then you'll know what I mean. And, AI today, not just AI, but even computer programming isn't computer programming anymore, because it's been around for so long. There are so many plugins that you can just plug in, that programmers or developers, they develop software systems. They don't program anymore. We used to program. I lectured in AI in the 1990s, the early 1990s, to fourth year students. And back then was the same nonsense that you get today. There's going to be take over. Robots are going to take over the world, and there's going to be sentience, and they're going to be more intelligent than humans. And yes, Deep Blue beat the Russian chess champion at chess. That's what AI does. It's good at games, because games is a fixed number of moves. Even chess, it's a huge number, but a computer can check through those numbers quickly. So it will beat a human being, because human beings make mistakes, and computers programmed properly won't make a mistake, and it's going to beat you. And the worst that happened in the 90s was robots worked 24/7 in Toyota factories in Japan. And Toyota, as we all know, became number one. Not for very long, though, because now it's Chinese vehicles taking over all over the place. I'm after a Chinese, I know, won't advertise, but I got a specific one in mind. Qatar, where I am, is full of them. Yeah, I'm talking about fields full. I'm talking about, the Qatar World Cup. They built parking lots, 5-level parking lots, full of this Chinese one, just the one Chinese car, which I'm after. I went in now again and it's empty. I wonder if they sold all of them. The fields are empty, like 6 soccer fields full of this car. and it's empty. The soccer stadium parking lot, 5 levels, is empty. So they probably sold it all. Qatar is full of SUVs, but these big ones, not these toys that we have here in South Africa. Yeah, Qatar is a really beautiful country. I hope to. That's where I'm doing step one. The make a lot of money thing. Just figure this out, right? I mean, I'm just follow me here. If if Google bought DeepMind from Mustafa Ibrahim, Demis Hassabis, and Shane Legg, the three of them developed DeepMind. Shane Legg, Mustafa Ibrahim even wrote a book. I have it on my shelf here. I bought it just to read it. He's boring and stupid. He says the same old nonsense that they said back in the 90s. He's like a white guy, man. They hype things up. They write books and they advertise, and then people who don't really know get taken in by all their stupid nonsense. Any case, they developed DeepMind. They sold it to Google for about 500-600 million USD. This is 10 years ago. All three of them got jobs like CEO jobs with that kind of salaries. Now, I mean, they probably each one got like 200 USD each from the sale. Then again, when you go work there, so they didn't even need the 200 mil because they got CEO salaries for the last 10 years. All three of them are still there. Google, Shane Legg, Demis Hassabis is the face of DeepMind at Google. He's busy building a game. I don't know, it's like a tic-tac-toe game. When it started, it lost every game and it learned how to beat. Now a human can't beat it, a game. This is now a big man playing games. He's like my son. My son is a gamer. But anyway, that's another story. So because the thing can't be beaten out, it actually learned. So now they gave him another few million, I don't know how much, 100 million or something, because they wanted him to go further with this game. I don't know what the game is going to do. What's it going to do? Make coffee? Answer deep questions. The answers to all these questions are in physics. And Demas, he's a computer scientist. I'm also a computer scientist. But my point that I want to make is, if they paid 600 million for DeepMind, then they must pay more for ChatILM. Because ChatILM doesn't guess. It's not a GPT model. It's a HRE model, and it's going to be patented. Qatar must just give me money. You know, uh, OpenAI, those ladies at OpenAI, those 27-year-olds, they developed ChatGPT for 100 million USD because they got all the money. China then came along and they developed DeepSeek. Because all this deep stuff, you get all confused. They developed DeepSeek about 7 months later for $6 million. So Trump said, hold on. You copied ChatGPT, man. 100 million and 6 million. So they said, no, we no copy. We absorb. And it's the same thing. It's still GPT. It still makes mistakes. And, it's still, but it's six. Mine is 176,500 USD. That's all I'm asking for from Qatar. And I'm accepted on the program. I've been developing it on my own for about 7 months already. And I broke it up. My knowledge, my MVP, they talk about minimum viable product. My MVP knowledge base is fixed because I'm using a free version of Pinecone. I got no money. I'm living off savings. They hacked me. They stole such a lot of my crypto. It would have helped me now because I'm running on fumes now. I'm flying on fumes. But I'm using a free version of Pinecone. I can only have 5 indices with the free version. So I need money to buy more indices. I mean, the data is the big part. It goes to big expenses. And I've got it in my budget, 176,500 USD. Compared to 6 million, it's nothing. Compared to 100 million, it's like peanuts. But if they bought DeepMind for 600, 500 million, then I want at least 700 million. Plus, I want a job for my team because they won't know how to use it. You know how to. My thing is modular. You plug in domains. It's starting with Islam, Catholicism, and Anglicanism, and a little bit of general knowledge that will fit on my five free indices. And, like bits and pieces are already coming through from Qatar because they're not going to give me 176,500 USD. Here you go. There's your like cash, crisp notes. They're not going to do that. They're not even going to deposit it into my Qatar LLC bank account on that side, which I must still do because they're slow there. That's why I came home because they don't work in the fast. They really told me if they work for 2 hours there, then it's a lot. Yeah, in South Africa, we work more. We work harder because you don't want to think about coffee and food and stuff like that. I can't fast actually. I'm diabetic. I fasted since 2012 when I was diagnosed diabetic, and 2 years ago, on the 17th day of the fast, I got a headache from outer space. It was like God was telling me, you are sinning by fasting. And then I spoke to my son about it. He said, "Yeah, but Daddy, you're damaging your body and you're sinning in any case. So you don't make sense." So I just stopped fasting and I pay fidya now, which is like feed a person a day. It's 31 Rand this year, 2026. I don't know what that is. I think it's 1447 Hijrah. So I'm leaving on the 1st of Shawwal or the last day of Ramadan, 29th or the 30th, to go back to Qatar. I want to sever ties, tax ties with South Africa. So if Microsoft or Google buys my Chat ILM for $700 million, then I don't have to pay tax here because they smuggle you over the tax money, man. Here they corrupt in South Africa. So I'm gonna find a way. If I cut tax ties, then I might just show that my home is actually Qatar. But more important than cutting tax ties, I need to know if I cut ties with South Africa, then I'm a musafir. All right. So if you're a musafir, then you make shorten salah, qasr salah. So like 77, 80 k's away, then you can make shorten salah. So where is my home? The English say home is where the heart is. Now my heart is, half of it is in Malaysia where I come from, and half of it is in Qatar. And the two of them are far apart. So do I work on like 80 k's from Qatar? And then what about South Africa? South Africa is not my home. But I treat it as a home base now. And so whenever I'm 70 to 80 k's away from here, like say Neisner or something, George, then I make Kasar Salah. In any case, that's my personal problems. I don't know why I'm talking about that. I want to talk about the TV series. I've got a full 12 CVC TV series, and I want to make it like in Turkish style, maybe in Turkey. I also want to open up a, a branch of creative catering in Turkey so that my wife can retire. She's the original Cape Town branch of creative catering. Her middle sister lost her job. She was an admin manager with a big insurance company in another province called Natal. And then they said there's something wrong with her because she's Muslim. They kicked her out. And so she had no work job. She was married, but they had two children. But I mean, she was used to being an admin manager and she was happy doing it. So she copied from her sister and she opened up Creative Catering Durban branch. And then the sister-in-law did the same and she started Creative Catering Joburg branch, another province. They also retired now and she's given the shop over to her daughter. She's gone into a shop from a home industry into a shop. Now, my wife also went from a home industry into a shop in a gym. Back then, it was called Health and Racket Club, and that was a thief. He was a scallum. Oh no, he ended up in jail. He's out now. He was in the gym now the other day. But he almost took me for a ride. But sorry, too clever for you, white boy. He started Health and Racket Club, and then I got the snack and juice bar in the Gatesville, like the Indian area. They built one there. This millionaire Indian guy bought it for 15 million. And then he still said, sorry, he still said to me, like, I spent 15 million on this building. I wonder when I'm going to get it back. It's Charos and their money. In Cape Town, the Charos are the Maros, and the brain O's like me, we the main O's, because we in the majority. But, you know, the Charos are on the stock exchange and there isn't a single brain O, but I'm going to be the first one. Because I'm speaking to a Charo who's a Muslim guy. We grew up together in Wynberg. He's very, very busy right now because it's year end for us here in South Africa in February. So he said I must contact him the first week of March when all this will be done. So I'm going to do that. I've completed a whole document thing on, I must actually go register now my PTY Ltd here in South Africa. And then in Qatar, I must register a LLC, a limited liability company. Then I get a Qatar ID, which is like I think I must apply for a residency permit. I don't know this future thing company that handles all that. I must all contact them. But I'm making videos here. And then I've got a business on that side and a company on this side, which I intend, God willing, growing into a stock exchange company. Like this guy that's going to help me do it now. Very nice guy. One of the good guys. And yeah, so I'm gonna put the video of my launch, which is in about 3 weeks' time. Not this Saturday coming, but the fourth Saturday, I think, on the 14th of March it is. So I'm gonna make a video of it for the ones, my IT guys who's like in Holland and such places. Kuwait is also one guy. So I can send them the video, they can see what the launch is all about. And yeah, so I'm gonna if let's say they pay me. I mean, not let's say they're going to pay me. Either Microsoft or Google or who knows, AWS, one of these big guys. What's the other guy's name again? From that shopping thing, man. I get forgetful, so I got such a lot of stuff in my head. But it happens to everybody, so I'm not bothered by it. I'm still thinking about it. But I'm gonna make a lot of money. I'm gonna buy a big farm. You can Google CompuAid, which is this AI business, and you Google ALSYS. Or actually, if you go to the CompuAid website, COMPU-AID, CompuAid. If you go to that website, you'll see it's a .za, a South African company, .co.za. And there's links there to advanced light systems and halal AI and the big farm. And if you hear the word halal, then you think it's only for Muslim people, but it's not. Like Chat ILM, it's not only for Muslim people, it's for everybody. And whoever wants to have their domain plugged in, I'm going to stick it up on GitHub for those of you who know how that works. And people should get to know how that works because it's a way to get global with your ideas. It's a way to get your intellectual property handled, like your patent stuff. And it's a way to make things public or private. It's a way to release things to certain people. Like if you want to sell a license to somebody and only let them see your stuff, GitHub is the way to go. That's how we do it. I mean, it's mostly computer code that's on there, but you can put anything on there. Like digital, anything digital, obviously. Any digital documents. So I want to get more. brown people on the stock exchange. We were held back during apartheid, and it's only white guys. And now, since '94, you see what happened was the English had this thing, stock exchange, where they got everybody, all the English people, to get involved in their stuff. So when they handed over South Africa to the Afrikaners, yeah, the one European group handed an African country to another European group. So they broke off a piece of the stock exchange and they gave it to the Afrikaners. So the real thing is actually the money, not the country. The country is in debt and messed up, and the people are up to nonsense. But the real important thing is the money. So when the Afrikaners handed over the country to the ANC, they did the same thing. They broke off a piece of the stock exchange. They called it Alt X, like alternative unknown, and they gave it to black business. And the ANC, they said to their guys, do you want to be in politics or do you want to be in business? And of course, everybody, like, I won't mention any names now, but all the groot kokkedoere, they suddenly kept quiet, you know, um, and they were earning millions on the stock exchange. And, here I was busy doing a master's, trying to get to Malaysia. And suddenly, the Minister of Finance at the time was a brown guy. Okay, he was a white brown guy, a whitish brown guy. But he lived in a colored area, and he was a colored. And they made him Minister of Finance. You can go look him up. I won't say his name. But he went to Malaysia to go and research the small business economy, to uplift other people, because the white guys were all the corporates and the enterprises and all that stuff, the big business guys, and we were all small business. So I was cheering him on, and my master's was based on the use of microcomputers in small businesses in the Western Cape and surrounding areas, but I just gave in. And then he suddenly stopped doing that, like, hello, you're now married to a white woman and you obviously got your million. So what happened? They said that the struggle was for the people, by the people. You will get houses, security, and comfort. That is a lot of cuck, man. A lot of shit, because it turned out to be government by a few people. Fuck the people. If you'll excuse the swear word. Everybody swears nowadays. Like even Elon Musk said, go fuck yourself. So I'm a brown person. So if I say it, I'm probably going to get into nonsense. But he can say it in public on YouTube. Yeah, he said GFY. Yeah. But it wasn't only Trevor Manuel, man. That external moderator from Belgium, he told me I must put a lot more statistics in it. And I'm looking at statistics, a lot of crap, man. Like, probably, like, I looked at 10 different accounting packages. And you know what? I found a South African accounting package to be better than a brilliant English accounting package called Brilliant Accounting, and DAC Easy Accounting from America, and like 7 other ones. The South African one, Pastel Accounting, won hands down. So when I got uphill from this Belgian guy, like, put more stats in, I put more stats in. I used Microsoft graphs and statistic programs to work out all the rubbish stats. And I put it full in my thesis. But the nail in the coffin was when I went to his house, like, for final moderation. I mean, the external moderator, when I walked in, he actually told his wife, I could hear him. I never saw her, but I heard him say to her, I hope your house is clean enough for these people. Best Stewart. Right there and then I decided, I actually don't need this piece of paper. And I don't have a master's in the sense that I completed a thesis, but I never submitted it. Because, basically I thought, you know what, GFY, I don't need you. I don't need this paper. I already know the answer. Pastel Accounting is the number one thing. And then we sold CompuAid started back then. It was a hardware company or hardware small business that sold computers, Mustek computers from Misa. So we did that for about 8 or 9 years, and we did it because the rector said we have to practice what we preach. That's why we started that. And I say we because it was a partnership. I knew nothing about business. I was the business IT lecturer, but my partner was a senior lecturer in the accounting department. So he came to me and he said, "You do the computers and I'll do the business part of it." And we made some good money. He actually went to Malaysia one day because he spoke one day and he was saying stuff, and I said, "I'm not a colored, I'm Malay." And I got an ID book to prove it. It says Cape Malay. He said, "No, there's no such thing as Malay." So I said, "But I'm standing right in front of you." So he ended up going to Malaysia to go and check it out. And he had a bit more respect for me when he came back. I never had money back then. My car was like a rust bucket. I used to drive up and down to Durban every year. I'm from Durban. My wife's from Durban. So I've been married to her for the 6th of April coming up now will be 41 years. I think I deserve an award. And by the way, between you and me, my wife beats me. Yeah, with a rolling pin. That creative catering rolling pin. I actually bought it for her and she hits me with it. But I can't report it because gender-based violence is only about violence against women. What about violence against men? How sexist is that? Or is me and my wife just too advanced for... Then we must go, then we must leave South Africa. But my wife doesn't want to go, man. Women are about family. They're very attached. My daughter-in-law is also like that. Yeah, she's very family. Or it's admirable. But men are like cowboys, man. I'll just get on my Honda Steed. I'll show you my bike one day. And I'll get on that bike and ride into the sunset. I ride 3 o'clock in the morning. I get on my bike and I take a ride way out of the city. So if you go to the CompuAid website, you'll get to the big farm. It's like a whole network of websites. 4, actually 5, there's a Harvest blockchain also on there. So I don't know, I think I'm going to put my share buying thing. I don't know how that works. There's my phone. I don't know how the buying the shares work. But back in the day, the white guys, they kept the payments, like Elon Musk. He's also South African, right? I said it in the last video. He did PayPal, but like all the Visa card payments and all that stuff, they kept it all to themselves, because that was money, and they kept all the money to themselves. Like you couldn't. I was one of the first website builders, and my website guys go way back to the 90s, and I had an ISP in Stellenbosch, and Stellenbosch University was the think tank of apartheid. That's where they thought up all these draconian laws of keeping us back, basically, while they dished out the land and everything else among themselves. Today, Stellenbosch University is completely the opposite, but now it's messed up, man, because it comes from a messed up beginning. So, there are Muslim guys there that are more black than Muslim. There's a professor there that's a professor, he's a Muslim professor, but he doesn't do stuff in the Muslim community anymore because he's an expert on Ubuntu, which is like a Xhosa, the black people here, brotherly stuff about the Xhosa people. He's an expert on that. He's an Ubuntu expert. He used to be my neighbor where I lived, and he went from the building trade to being a professor in religious studies. But I hope I meet him so I can discuss what he's doing and how it's not the religion, it's not Islam. Ubuntu is not Islam. You can try your best to make it look, so that you can get research funding. But Ubuntu is Ubuntu and Islam is Islam. But anyway, yeah. So step one is make a lot of money, and then step two is make these videos. Now I've got the script, and my cousin he started out as he used to plant poles on the beach and build up rigs and stuff for the movie industry, and they make a lot of ads, and they made a couple of movies here in South Africa already. I mean, if you look into it, you'll find these things out. In fact, when this photo here behind on top of my head, when I went on pilgrimage to Mecca, my younger son phoned me to say that they're looking for my yellow van. I bought my wife a yellow delivery van, a Fiat Doblo, because Fiat is Italian and the Italians paid for my studies. That's another story. I eventually went back to university after 4 years, 1 month, and 10 days as a telecommunications technician. South Africa changed enough, from the 70s to the early 80s for me to just resign, break my contract, and go to UCT. And fortunately, I then went to study computer science and not engineering because my telecommunications qualification exposed me to computer science. And it was brand new. It was like 2 years old, the computer science faculty. Before then, people had to study CASAM in order to get a computer science major, whatever. I don't even know if there was I think maybe there was a CASAM 301. So, when I started lecturing, I was the only one in the whole department with a degree in computer science. My department head, because he was the older guy, they made him the department head, but he had a diploma in data metrics from UNISA. I also had a BSc honors from UNISA, but it was a degree in computer science. And the senior lecturer, there was only one. That guy was a charlatan, and I told him in his face he's a charlatan because he had no computer qualifications whatsoever. He had no Islamic qualifications, but he was always pulling the slumser thing on, In Cape Town, you have slumser. They're not Muslims. They are slums. They call themselves slums. They say, I'm a slums. It's like I live in the slum and I kind of follow Islam, so I'm a slums. I think that's where the word comes from. Their brains are definitely in the gutter, that's for sure. And they don't know what they are. Our language, if you look into our language, there was an academic who's passed away who studied all these things, did a PhD in it. And he discovered that, you know, back when the Dutch brought Malays here to Cape Town, there was nothing here. Nothing. There was one guy that they found walking on the beach and they called him Harry die Strandloper. Obviously, his name wasn't Harry, but die Strandloper is Afrikaans for the beach walker because he was walking on the beach. And then those guys lived in the bush. They had no buildings, nothing. They lived off roots and stuff. And they gave them the name Bushmen. Of course, that's become a racial slur nowadays. In Afrikaans, you say Busman. Sorry. And, to non Cape Townians, that would mean nothing. Like if you say nigger to us, it means nothing. But to an American black guy, it's like, what did you just say? Motherfucker. And to the Y generation, what is it, the Z generation again? One of my students told me, sir, do you know fuck means nothing to me? To me, it's like, oh, what did he just say? He says, and he still repeated it. He said, it means nothing to me, sir. It's just a word. And that got me thinking about words. In different societies, different words mean different things. So nigger means nothing to me, but Busman means a lot. It's like an insult. And Cape Town is full of Bushmen, but they come from the San or the Khoi San. These are the Bushman people. Bushman is a colloquial term. And in Afrikaans, you can really insult somebody. The Afrikaans language, we developed our own form of Afrikaans, because the Malays spoke Bahasa and the Dutch spoke Dutch. But the Dutch brought us here in 1654 and they came in 1652. Jan van Riebeeck came here to build a castle under commission of the Dutch king, to build a castle, actually to build a garden and to have meat and fresh fruit and water for the ships coming past the tip of Africa, to basically have like a N1 city stop here to pull over and take on fresh stuff so they can carry on, the journey. Because they didn't need petrol, but I mean, they needed fresh water and fruit and veg and biltong and, food. So he did that and obviously made a lot of money. Yeah, but they had occupied the Malay area back then, which was just one big Malay archipelago. The British, of course, broke it up into Malaysia and Indonesia. And today there's two different dialects. There's Bahasa Malaysia and Bahasa Indonesia. And the professor idiots over there are busy competing with one another to see whose language can be more advanced, like more modern words included in like professors are stupid people, honestly. I met a physics professor there, a retired physics professor, and he told me all the stuff that I'm telling you now. But anyway, Cape Townians are just as stupid, If you say that you're Malay from Malaysia, they say, huh? No, I'm not from Malaysia. I wanna be, yeah, I wanna be a white person. I talk like a white hair. So you see, if you ask them now, okay, where does puasa come from? No, that puasa is we say puasa. Yeah, but where does it come from? I'll never forget the first time I landed in Malaysia at the old Kuala Lumpur airport, or KL as everyone calls it. And the girl over the announcement made an announcement, and then she said, "Terima kasih." Boom, thing went off. And I felt so warm because I grew up saying Kanala and Terima kasih, because we creolize all the words, even the Arabic words, but our language is made up of Dutch, Dutch, creolized Arabic, creolized Bahasa, and then there's two or three creolized isiXhosa words, because the isiXhosa people came from the Eastern Cape all the way here to come look for jobs, Yeah, so in the kitchen, we call our Afrikaans Kombuis Afrikaans, because that was the contact point between the Dutch people and the Malay people who worked in the kitchen. And so we understand, because the Dutch took that language and they made it Afrikaans and they formalized it, like subject and predicate and adjective and all that. And they made it their official language and they spoke it using only like Dutch words, Afrikaans words, but there was no Afrikaans words. So they took English words and they added, like they Afrikanized it. Like institution is institutie. They just put a C at the end, Ammunition is ammunitie. And then that's how it all became Afrikaans words. So if you can speak English, it's actually easy to speak Afrikaans, We just add C. Okay, it's not as easy as that, but yeah. But we can speak Cyber Afrikaans, but they can't speak Kombuis Afrikaans. It's too. But they do acknowledge that, like the sound, like the Afrikaans got a lot of. My surname is Gaidin, and English people can't say Gaidin. It's like Gaidin, Jaidin. They can't even say my name, which is Anwar. Okay, I've got to do cybersecurity now before they hack me again. So the video is already 44 minutes and 44 seconds coming up. Yeah, interesting. There's 44 seconds now. So let me get done with this video also. I didn't actually talk about the TV series. I wanted to talk about the TV series. Like my cousin is going to do it. I told him when I've made a lot of money, then he must retire. Then he must also got a lot of money. And he must come to my thing and he must invest, he must buy shares. So then he will have a lot of money. Plus his pension, that's a lot of money. And I'm going to have a moors a lot of money. Like $700 million worth of it. So then I don't need MBH Holdings to buy my farm and to do Qatari farming. I'll just buy my own farm. Cash. Yeah. And I'll buy a lot of farms, like one in Natal, where we go all the time. Maybe one in Joburg, where my wife's family moved to. And then like a Qatar farm, and maybe a Kuwait farm, and a Abu Dhabi farm. You see, this is the kind of shit that I sit thinking up all the time. Let me press stop here because I'm by 45 minutes, and then maybe I'll come back later on and do the other video. I need to go do cybersecurity.